Hello, I'm going to tell you how this project visit 2 went. So last time we in visit 1 we went into the assembly. There were 9 of us and we performed to 300 people, and just introducing them to some of the main concepts they might come across, introducing them to this project and helping them to think of ideas for their projects by giving them little scenarios. Now this time there were 14 volunteers going into the school and 12 form groups, so a couple of people doubled up. Mostly we were all going in by ourselves to deliver a lesson. And the lesson's aim was to get people planning their own mini projects and groups. So we had a planning meeting, a sort of a preparation meeting, the day beforehand on the Sunday in my room, where a lot of volunteers turned up, which was really good. And we sat around in a circle and went over all of our ideas for the bits of the classroom, for the bits of the lesson that might need a lot of ideas and a lot of creativity. So you've got the structure, and I think people are okay with coming up with lesson plans based on a basic structure or criteria, and that's fine. But there's the added thing of you need to talk throughout it, pretty much. You need to talk. You need to be the one providing people with inspiration, maybe not ideas, but maybe suggesting some ideas to get people going, and thinking about how to make it interactive, how to make it interesting and put activities in there. So our prep meeting was basically brainstorming about the different kinds of activities that we could do and the different type of projects people could do, so that if people were stuck, like we thought that if people were apathetic or they didn't know what to do, it would be good if we already had a whole host of ideas to get people started. For example, bake sale, they could do film screenings, they could do a concert, they could write songs, they could do an essay, they could write a poem, they could draw a sketch, like a comic, they could do a PowerPoint presentation, they could do a mini documentary, they could do something to do with photos, they could do a leaflet poster, and also there's that to think about, the form that they're going to do their mini project in, but there's also the content that they're going to put in it. So, for example, it might not be useful to have, I don't know, 12 forms and about 4 groups per form. So it's not useful to have like up to 50 groups doing different forms of things, but exclusively on how to tackle homophobia. There are lots of different aspects there's lots of different content that they could put in that's related to LGBT. So yeah, that's what we brainstormed on, and we were doing that for 2 hours, and it went really well actually, I think. And then we met up at Cambridge Station the next day at 9:30 and travelled down to Haydon School, where we all managed to arrive there, some earlier than others, but we all managed to arrive there at about 12, and the lessons were starting at 12:20. So we all went to the staff room, sorted out our stuff by distributing resources that everyone might have wanted in their classrooms. By the way, everyone, although we brainstormed at the prep meeting, everyone actually planned their lesson on their own, because I think that you can have ownership over your lesson if you plan it yourself, if you're not dictated to in what you need to do, and thus you can better deal with spontaneity in the classroom if you've already got a grip yourself on what you're doing and you know the point is of what you're doing. So everyone had planned their own lesson plan. I had brought a bunch of Stonewall resources along with me, and other people had brought other resources too. So Oh, okay. I was just checking if I was still filming. But everyone had brought a bunch of other resources with them too, so we sort of shared them all out according to what people thought that they wanted in their lesson. And then that was pretty much it. Everyone got guided to um, the rooms that their lessons were in. So that was all over the school across 5 different buildings. And uh, 2 teachers guided them, and I made my way to the language block um, with the form 12C1. So like I wasn't sat in on anyone's lesson. Everyone was going off doing their own lessons. And I'll just talk a little bit about how my lesson went. And I can't really speak on behalf of anyone else. But this is what happened in mine. So came in, everyone. I came in like as one of the first people to come into the room, where the form tutor was already there and said hi and like we introduced, and the form tutor was really really nice, and really supportive. Um, really agreed with the aims of this project, so that was really good. That put me at ease to begin with. And then the students started filtering into the classroom, and obviously I think because they recognised me from last week, they pretty much knew what was going on. The register was taken, and then I started my lesson. So the structure of the lesson was 1, to discuss this project and discuss things to do with gender and sexuality. 2, to choose a project, and 3, to plan the project. So do a week by week plan of how to achieve the project in your group. I think the discussion part went really well. It was only supposed to go on for about 10 minutes, but in the end it went on for maybe 20 to 25 minutes, which was cutting it really fine. But it took a little bit of time to get started, because like if you start with questions, so does anyone have any questions or comments about this project? Does anyone need clarity on what it is? And I want to open up a space for talking in the classroom about gender and sexuality. So does anyone want to start off? Obviously people don't want to start off because it's such a taboo subject that talking about it might be in effect outing yourself. But also that I think the schoolwork maybe at that age, I don't want to sound patronising, but like apathy, like it's almost as if you need to have visible apathy for what you're doing, otherwise it's not cool. So people don't get started. So I start with the question of so we saw in last assembly that although you were able to stand up with us saying certain words like lesbian, gay, bisexual, straight, trans, you were a lot more uncomfortable with actually saying the words, like especially the word lesbian. Like um, we were very averse to saying it. A lot of people laughed. A lot of people just couldn't say it during the assembly, and the teachers and the volunteers saw that we were visibly uncomfortable. At which point there was a group in the corner of the room that started laughing, and they started one another off laughing. Every time I said like a dirty word, they started laughing. And I tried to pick up on it. And what I didn't want to do was shut down conversation or tell someone off for reacting or speaking the way that they were speaking. I set sort of ground rules or conditions at the beginning, just saying if you're going to speak about something, speak about it sensibly. Don't be aggressive. Everyone speak one at a time, of course. Just so that we could keep debate open. I didn't want only the people who agreed with me to speak, because then you're not getting through to people who may need more to be got through to. But yeah, there was the first thing that happened was there was this group that just kept laughing, and then I was like, I'm not telling you off, but why are you laughing at these words? Why can't you treat the word lesbian sensibly. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, straight, and trans are all words that are in the Oxford English Dictionary. It's not like they're slang. Why can't you treat it sensibly? And they kind of hushed away. They were like, "Oh no, we're just laughing about something else. We just laugh a lot. That's what we do." And I was like, "Well, no, think about why you are laughing." And then I opened up to the rest of the class. Why do you think that this stuff is always treated as something that's funny? Why do you think that people won't really let you talk about it in a serious way? For example, in school, why is it always treated as a laughing matter? And someone put their hand up and said, because it's just British culture. It's just people, like, you don't treat that thing with maturity in British culture. And I thought that was a really intelligent response, and it really pleased me because I'm really interested in the culture aspects of this kind of stuff. So I picked up on it. I was like, yeah, like Brits are really known for their toilet humour, so anything to do with genitals or bodily functions is always laughed at. And also, and then the teacher, the form tutor, chipped in as well, and it was really, really useful to have her, one, controlling the class, and also chipping in with the discussion and trying to get people going with questions. So she was like, yeah, it's also hard to talk about it if it's taboo. And so we had a fairly good discussion about that in the end, and about whether saying the word gay to someone was offensive, whether saying the word gay to a straight person was offensive, whether saying the word gay to a gay person was offensive. And people were like, if you say the word gay to a gay person, that's not offensive. But I kind of said, if you said the word nigger to a black person, that's offensive, isn't it? Because nigger is an offensive word. And if people are using the word gay as offensive, it's essentially the same thing. So we had a good discussion, and people broke out into groups, which I wasn't expecting that they had already formed groups. So I was like over the moon that like one part of the lesson had already been done effectively, because I had run over with the discussion part. So they got into groups, and they were talking for a little bit about what they could do. And I went round to each group with two different forms. One was a form that they had to fill out and give back to us just with their contact details and the basic idea of their project, so that we can get in touch with them and know what they're doing and keep on track with what they're doing. And the second one was a week-by-week planning sheet that they got to keep, just so that they know that they're working on their projects every Monday lunchtime, like citizenship before lunch, and thus they will know what they're doing. They'll know what resources they need every week, and that will help them to do things while we're not around, and we can't poke them in the right direction. So I went round to each group. To be honest, I spent a lot of time with the group that was sort of homophobic at the beginning, as a little personal challenge. And I think one thing that's really important to remember is not to take things personally. So inquire why people are thinking this. Inquire back to why. Give them a scenario that contradicts their view. For example, the view that being gay or being trans is a choice, or if they don't realise the difference between sex and gender. So that's really, really good. I'm going to wrap this up really, really quickly because there's like a minute left to go of recording. But went round to each of the groups. Each of the groups had actually planned a really, really good idea, and I was really enthusiastic about what they're doing. They were generally really enthusiastic about what they're doing, and I didn't have to prompt them to think of any content that was more adventurous. Or people had their little niches already, like they wanted to do gay people in sport, for instance. They wanted to do representation of gay people in the media. So that was really, really good. So collected all the forms back in at the end, and then went to go converse with the rest of the volunteers, who said pretty much a similar thing. There was general consensus that all the lessons went really well, that they exceeded expectations, and that people were a lot more open to this project than they expected them to. So I'm going to wrap it up there because there's like 1 second left. That was visit